How you guys doing? This is the story of Adriel Isaiah Williams. To start off my testimony, I truly just want to let the Lord have his way, and whatever he wants me to come out and tell you, I want to tell you. But I want to start back just this life has made no sense. Like, even his goodness and his mercy and his grace, like, it's made no sense to me. It's blown my mind. Just to begin off this testimony, I want to start with my childhood. In my childhood, it was rough. Went through molestation, abuse, and when you talk about molestation, you're probably asking, like, what do you mean by that? And I was just coming out here and being open and vulnerable with my generation and my nation so that this can impact and change people. But when I was 3 years old, my first real encounter with trauma, I was taken into a room with this lady. And as she took me in this room, I was only 3. She began to strip me completely naked. And I remember as she began to do these things, she began to violate me. I remember she made me perform sexual, she made me use my mouth, and then it was vice versa. That was my first instance of trauma. And that was one of the things that God had truly delivered me on, but just continue to go down and break down what my life has been and just the severity of everything that I went through, just so you can know that no matter what you're going through, no matter what situation you're facing, that Jesus, he can completely change it and he can completely heal you. But I went through that molestation, and I remember a couple years later, I was around my uncle, and I'm not here to say names or anything, but I was around my uncle, and I remember he had me reach in the pocket of his pants, and as I began to reach my hand in his pocket, I was violated. That was my second sexual abuse that had occurred in my life. Now, as time continued to go on, you'd probably think that would be it, but I was 18 years old when the third incident happened, and I remember this was a time that I was on fire for God. Like, I was just in love with God because I just had an encounter with him, and he completely turned and started to shift my life. But as I began to open the door to leadership and just wanting to have a father, a spiritual father, because that's what we're taught in the Bible to have, that individual, that person, they took advantage of me. And I remember when that had occurred, it just completely shattered my life even more. And I was completely broken. My life has been full of anger. It's been full of rage. This is not just a testimony of me in and out the streets, because there's so much more that had happened. My mom, she was in the hospital, intubated for 4 years of my life. During that 4 years of my life, it was the most chaotic time. I remember just during that time that she was intubated over, just going to school and being picked on for not having clothes, for not having the shoes that everybody else had. Every day was a struggle. And I remember when I truly got in high school, I was tired of everybody picking on me. So I had made a decision in my mind to fight against everybody, to fight against everything, and to fit in with the social culture, because my whole middle school and my whole a lot of my elementary years were just bullied and me getting bullied over and over, until I got to a point where I was fed up with being bullied, and my reaction was anger, and I was so angry and so aggressive. As I'm telling my testimony, I just could be brought to tears right now, just of the goodness of Jesus. As life continued to go on, I remember in the 8th grade, because of what I suffered at a young age, I began to pop pills. I began to start my trials and tests with addiction, because that open door that I had opened, it would allow so much more into my life. So it was around, I want to say 8th, 9th grade, I started taking pills. I started just taking weed, just start allowing all these things into my body because I was just searching for anything that could give me a release, that could set me free. I remember in the time, like, I was addicted to pornography, and at that time through my addiction, this addiction that came because at a young age I was already open to sexuality because of the molestation that had occurred. And it really shatters a young child when they feel like they're unprotected, where everywhere they go they're unsafe because they've been in a situation or a circumstance where they were shown they were unsafe. But God, He has restored all those things. So as I continue to push forward in this testimony, I want to begin to talk about my addictions. It was bad. It's like I was out of my mind. I remember it got to a point where I was drinking alcohol every night just to sleep. And I remember I would point my gun, the barrel of my gun, and I would take out all the rounds. I would take out every bullet. And as I would do that, I would put the gun to my head, and I would be so drunk. And I would begin to fake pull the trigger because I wanted to prepare myself. My whole goal, and a lot of people would never know this, but my goal before Jesus changed me was to take enough pills or to drink so much that I could pull the trigger one day. And that is what God saved me from. He's changed me from the molestations. I was in and out the streets. I remember in order for me to even have where I'm at, the relationship that I have with Jesus, I had to leave everything that I know. For my whole life, it was about proving everybody wrong, proving every person wrong, that every word that they ever said about me, that they were wrong about it. And I remember that had led me to a lifestyle where I wanted money. I wanted money fast. And I did. You know, I made money fast. I made so much of it. But this never brought a peace inside. This just brought more anguish. This just brought more anxiety. This just brought more paranoia. Because in order to attain that money, I had driven my life so far into the streets where there was hits out on me. And you're probably like, what do you mean by that? It's like there was literally hits out on me where it's like the people, they would search for me. And I remember even one time being in North Carolina, and I believe that they had showed up, and my mom, she had came in and she had saved me from that calamity. Because if she did not come, they would have taken my life because I had taken what was theirs. And my life has just been chaotic, man. It's just until up until this point that Jesus changed me. I remember the last situation that had truly brought me to a yes. I remember I had got pulled over on the side of the road, and as I'm getting pulled over, I'm like, my life is over, because I was doing like a 112 on a 70. And when the cop, he pulled me over, I had weed, I had gun, and in my pocket was bullet ammos. So as a cop, as I begin to step out the car and he begins to search me, he begins to find the bullet ammos, he begins to find the weed, he begins to find everything. And me, I started break down and crying right in front of this officer because I knew that my life was over. I was like, no way is the Lord gonna snatch me out of this one, because I've never shown him anything in my life to this point that I was gonna submit and live in his wills and in his ways. And so as the officer, as he began to search me, as he begins to take everything out, I remember he was just like, I'm only gonna give you a speeding ticket. And this blew my mind, because I was just like, how did he find all these things and he could give me a sentence that could put me away? And they tell me all the time that as an African-American male in this society, that if you get pulled over by an officer and you have all these things in your car, that you are going to get a lifetime in prison. But instead, the Lord had spared me. And this is what had brought me back. And I just remember I was just losing my mind each and every day. Each and every day was a struggle. I began to, even the drugs I was taking Molly cigarettes, Percocets, Xanax, Adderall, just anything that was heavy that could really just destroy me, because I wanted to die so bad. Just to be honest, I wanted to die. I didn't want to live anymore. I was fed up with life. I had lost so many friends, so many people that I loved and I cherished. They're gone and they're never coming back. And every day that was a realization, and I didn't want to be here. I blamed myself for it.